All right, welcome to the Patriot Hour. I'm Michael, your host. If you're just new to joining, thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe. All right, we got some more Q Anon, Q clearance, updates, crumbs, drops, posts. What is Q? What am I talking about? Well, that is up to you to get up to par. All right, you gotta do your research, look around the channel, look around the internet. Okay, so real quickly here before we get into some of the new ones, I said I would be looking into these, kind of staring at them. So on 1445, we went over it earlier, really quickly. Thank all suicides. Example, think Spade, traced to the Clinton Foundation, New York. Foundations, the New York one specifically, traced to importing and exporting. So then you can go from China to Mexico into Long Beach, trace the sales, the spinoff of one of the companies that Spade might have owned or been in with, and then trace that to the Clinton Foundation, trace to the port security profile L5, who granted it. Did this Spade lady get tied into doing some of the importing and exporting of what? Maybe human sales, trafficking, right? Who knows? Okay, 1448, FF weather alert worldwide. I'm jumping to false flag, maybe false flag weather alert worldwide. Stay vigilant and maintain situational awareness. I've been seeing flash flooding. I'm going to say false flag, right? All right. The time is now. Contact window is good, biblical. I'm not sure. We were thinking contact window. Just it was his time was now to be able to post again. After a little, some days of darkness, the contact window is good. What's happening right now is kind of biblical, good versus evil. It's on biblical levels. Okay, so we're going to go to 1456. Where is Rod Rosenstein? What country specifically? Why? Insurance pleas will fail. You cannot hide what is already known and cannot be proven. Rod Rosenstein. Hashtag in the kill box. Horned in. They got him in sights. All right. Deputy Attorney Rod Rosenstein. So I think earlier when it was fly, I think he was actually getting on a plane. So, went way back, didn't I? So right here at it was late last night, but Rod Rosenstein fly. So then we got that. So where to specifically? 1457 asked about the letter. However, a DOJ official said Rosenstein is currently representing the United States in a brief, unrelated visit to a foreign nation, one of America's key intelligence partners, indicating he would plan on responding during the previously scheduled briefing that's going to be happening on Thursday. We got an article here we'll get into. This statement should ring alarms. Hint, those responsible for spying Five Eye are present. Panic. So this last one was at 1405, folks. 1405 p.m. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so asked about the letter. This one came at 14:13. This is 14:57. 14:56 before 14:57. This came at 14:53. 2:13. 14:13. So that's 2:13 p.m. All right. Hit this Fox News article. So the DOJ refusing to give Grassley access to agent who interviewed Flynn. It's popping up an ad or something here. So we got a 3-minute video there we'll have to watch. Yeah, grab this. Copy. All right, give me a second here. Headline. Capture. I need a web browser. All right.
We've been telling you about Mueller's indictments, the 13 Russians charged for meddling in our election with no sign of any Trump collusion.
This as a new judge in the case against Michael Flynn ordered on Friday Mueller to surrender any evidence that could exonerate him. And Judge Napolitano says that may be no coincidence. He joins us right now. Why would the judge do that?
You know, I've never heard of this. So Mike Flynn pleads guilty to lying to the FBI in December. The judge before whom he pleads guilty takes himself off the case. Why? Because that judge is also on the FISA court, and he may very well have authorized the wiretap that surveilled Mike Flynn when he was talking to then Ambassador Kislyak, which is the alleged lie that he told the FBI about. Okay, so Mike Flynn pleads guilty. A new judge comes in. It's time for sentencing. Bob Mueller says, we don't want to sentence him till May. That's normal. If you have a cooperating witness, you don't want to sentence the witness until after the cooperation is finished. And then the judge, on his own, not in response to any application from General Flynn's lawyer, says, by the way, I want all exculpatory evidence that could help Flynn or hurt the government, turned over, pardon me, to Flynn's lawyers. Why would he want that after General Flynn has already pleaded guilty? That is unheard of. He must suspect a defect in the guilty plea, meaning he must have reason to believe that General Flynn pleaded guilty for some reason other than guilt. Do people plead guilty for a reason other than guilt?
Yes.
Yes, Brian. Unfortunately, yes.
Sometimes, what do you think the reason is?
Sometimes they'll say, right, lay off my son, and I don't want to have to mortgage my house again to pay my legal fees. So give me something to plead guilty to so that this can be over with. Right. So now the question arises, was he guilty? Did he lie to the FBI? Did the FBI agents who interviewed him, one of whom was Peter Strzok, actually believe that he lied? Or did they say, we don't see anything wrong, but senior management said, wow, we do, we think it was a lie? We don't know the answers to that, but it may very well come out as a result of Judge Sullivan, a very courageous federal judge in D.C., ordering this information to be revealed.
So what do you think will happen?
It's hard for me to say what will happen, but if it was a faulty guilty plea, if the government accepted the guilty plea knowing he wasn't guilty, the lawyers involved have a very serious problem.
That makes sense, because we told the story last week about how James Comey told members of Congress, we believe Michael Flynn did not lie to the FBI.
Right, and then after Comey is fired, the same crew says that we think he lied.
Okay. 10 seconds. Why would they indict 13 people that will never go see prison?
To smoke out any Americans that helped them. I think that a lot of Americans who don't know this are under surveillance to see what their reaction is. If it's a, whoosh, they didn't get me.
But they said Americans weren't involved.
That's what they said, but that might not have been what they meant.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Hold on here. There's more, I believe. So let me... All right. That's crazy. But we're going to try to...
Of course, we heard a lot about these memos when Comey testified before Congress last year, but seeing the memos and reading through them, and they're very interesting to read through, adds a lot more context to what Comey was saying in that hearing on Capitol Hill last year, particularly on the dossier, where Comey was saying to the president that we've got some information from Russia, these allegations that could be damaging. The president asked him about it. Comey says, I responded that we were not investigating him and the stuff might be totally made up, but it was being sent out of Russia, and our job was to protect the president from efforts to coerce him. That was on January the 6th. Later in that same month, on January the 28th, at dinner, Comey says that he told the president, quote, I explained that he could count on me to always tell him the truth. I said, I don't do sneaky things. I don't leak. I don't do weasel moves. Of course, the president has recently been calling James Comey a slimeball because of what's in his book. And the president tweeting this morning, James Comey memos just out and show clearly that there was no collusion and no obstruction. Also, he leaked classified information. Wow. Will the witch hunt continue? The memos also revealed more about the conversation that Comey talked about during dinner about loyalty. Comey in these more lengthy memos saying that the context was in terms of the president asking about leaks. Comey says, I explained that it often comes from the first or second hop out from those actually working on the sensitive thing. He replied, the president, that he needed loyalty and expected loyalty. They also talked about Andrew McCabe, the deputy director at the FBI. He asked me, and asked again later, whether your guy McCabe has a problem with me, explaining that I was pretty rough on him and his wife during the campaign. I explained that Andy was a true professional and has no problem at all. I then explained what FBI people were like, that whatever their personal views, they strip them away when they step into their bureau roles and actually hold political people in slight contempt without regard to party. There was also a lot of references in the memos about the allegation in that unverified dossier about the president cavorting with hookers in Moscow. Comey writing in the memo, the president said the hookers thing is nonsense, but that Putin had told him we have some of the most beautiful hookers in the world. He did not say when Putin had told him this. That prompted a response from Vladimir Putin's #1 press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, saying President Putin could never say such things, and he did not say anything like that to Trump, especially since they had never spoken to one another prior to Trump becoming president. However, Putin did talk about it in the middle of January in a press conference with the president of Moldova, where he told the press exactly what the president says that he said. The president was also talking about Flynn a lot in his meetings with Comey. The president talking about Flynn making phone calls to the Russian ambassador in that infamous private meeting that the president had with Comey in the Oval Office, and that there was nothing wrong with having those conversations with the Russian ambassador. That's when he asked Comey to let it go. The president tweeting, so General Michael Flynn's life can be totally destroyed, while shady James Comey can leak and lie and make lots of money from a third-rate book that should never have been written. Is that really the way life in America is supposed to work? I don't think so. So again, John, a lot more granularity and context in what we have heard from James Comey, both in his testimony and what we read in the book here. And the president didn't appear to have any problem with the Russia investigation, going so far as to say if some satellite, and that might be somebody else in the campaign, is involved here, we need to get to the bottom of that, but encouraging Comey to put the word out there, because Comey said it on multiple occasions that the president himself was not being investigated. John?
In the meantime, there's a new lawyer on President Trump's legal team, Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City, former U.S. attorney. What do we know about what he's going to be doing?
What we know that he is being tasked, as John Dowd was before John Dowd left earlier this month. He is being tasked with being the liaison between President Trump and the special counsel investigation. I imagine that he'll probably also have some involvement in whatever happens in the Cohen investigation, though we found out yesterday that Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, says the president is not a target in the Cohen investigation. Michael Cohen is the sole target in that particular case. But Giuliani will be talking with Mueller, and one of the things he'll be talking about is whether the president will sit down for an interview with him. The president happy to have Giuliani on board, in a statement yesterday saying, Rudy is great. He has been my friend for a long time and wants to get this matter quickly resolved for the good of the country. Giuliani, in an interview with the Washington Post, said yesterday he has a lot of respect for Robert Mueller, the special counsel, and he wants to resolve this quickly as well. So that's why Giuliani is being brought in. Very powerful guy to bring in. You know, former advisor to President Trump, former presidential candidate, former mayor of New York, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is investigating Cohen. So Giuliani's got as much expertise as you could ever want in an outside counsel.
Also held that job, the same job as Southern District U.S. Attorney that James Comey held. So interesting connections there.
Exactly, yeah.
John Roberts, thank you.
All right. So there we have it. There's still two more videos here, folks. But this is telling a story that is unfolding right before our eyes.
Taking effect today, and joining me now in studio is FCC
Not
Chairman
so much
Ajit
this one. So now we're gonna go down. Got that one we're gonna watch, and then that one. Okay, so this article, DOJ refusing to give Grassley access to agent who interviewed Flynn. And I was gonna read it, but these stories tell each section. Not that one. That one's flipped now because we already watched it. So we got that one, that one.
Obviously, the views of the majority leader are important to consider, but they do not govern what happens here in the Judiciary Committee.
That's Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley this week pushing back at Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's efforts to block the Mueller bill. Earlier, I sat down with Senator Grassley to discuss that bill and many other critical issues facing the Senate. Take a look. All right, Senator Grassley, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And I want to start by asking what you think of the fact that several conservative congressmen have asked for Jeff Sessions to investigate Hillary, Comey, McCabe, Lynch. Here we are almost a year and a half into the Trump administration, and they're still asking Sessions to do what they've been asking him to do for almost a year.
I wouldn't be surprised, but some of that might be happening and we don't know about it because of the tradition within the Justice Department and the FBI not to talk about ongoing investigations. You hear rumors about some things that are being done that aren't talked about very regularly. And I would just suggest that anybody that's involved in enforcing the law, and everybody in the Justice Department ought to be involved in that, you follow the facts where they take you.
When we hope that they do that, but with all due respect, the American public has lost confidence in the FBI. And you and I both know that, you know, the FBI leaks like a sieve, even at the top, starting with Jim Comey, leaking information that some say is classified so that it would get to the New York Times. So how can we be confident in this Department of Justice, in this FBI?
First of all, I think you could have confidence in the people that aren't running the FBI, that they're doing their job. And I think that we all have a responsibility, including those in the FBI and those in the Justice Department, to do what we can to reestablish the integrity of the FBI that's been warped a little bit by some of the things that McCabe and Comey have been involved in, not just in this administration, but in previous administrations.
The American people are frustrated. My viewers are frustrated. Let's talk about the fact that I believe you asked a direct question to Jim Comey in May of 2017. You said, Director Comey, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? Comey replied, never. Then you say, question 2, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about Trump or Clinton investigation? Comey again said no. You had a reason for asking those questions. That would be a predicate for perjury, and you know it. The problem is that we now have an attorney general who has recused himself, and you are continuing to push a bill to protect Mueller. All right? First question, do you believe Comey lied to you?
I think that there's plenty of evidence there that ought to be carried further, because whether he was under oath, but even if it wasn't under oath, it's against the law to lie to Congress.
Okay, it's against the law to lie to Congress, against the law to lie to the FBI. You have confidence in Jeff Sessions?
Yes, I do.
All right, you have so much confidence that you're pushing this bill to prohibit the president from firing Mueller, although the president for the past 4 months has not said he's firing Mueller. Why do you continue to push this bill?
I push this bill because I made a commitment to my colleagues when they introduced 3 different bills. I said, I'm not going to deal with 3 different bills. There's some question about the constitutionality of it. I said, if you get together, I'll bring it up. Now, I don't think Mueller's going to be fired. I'm not sure that there's a need for legislation, but when I make a commitment to my colleagues that if you can get a bipartisan agreement, I'm chairman of the committee, I feel like I have a responsibility to keep my word to my colleagues.
Senator, you are an extremely important individual. You are one of the lions of the Senate. You have been in Congress since 1974. You get this, all right? The Senate has passed virtually no bills last year. The House passed over 400 bills. What are you guys doing dilly-dallying about whether Mueller should be fired? You yourself have said that there doesn't appear to be any evidence of collusion. Why are we wasting taxpayer money?
Instead of answering your question, you brought up a very important issue. The Senate isn't getting much legislating done because we face a Democrat filibuster on every non-controversial and even controversial nominees, but most of these nominees are non-controversial.
Almost 50 years. What would you change if you could?
You ask a very difficult question. I think that what I would like to do is have the people that police our system, the media, if they would be more fair in their reporting and not be so liberally oriented, it would go a long ways towards reestablishing people's confidence in our government. That's what I would change. Now, you aren't going to do that by law. That's within the discipline of journalism. But they have a lot to do with whether or not people, or whether or not government's doing its business, whether people have confidence in the government, because they're always reporting on controversy, never reporting on things where people get along.
What can the American people do when we see these injustices?
We've got a president that has come to town to drain the swamp. It's pretty hard to drain the swamp when you have 3 branches of government, but I'm convinced this president's doing everything he can to drain the swamp because he's questioning the culture of this town.
You question the culture of this town?
Every day. That's what oversight's all about. That's what saying, for instance, if something's wrong and you expose it, and the people that did the wrongdoing, if they don't get fired, if heads don't roll, nothing's going to change in Washington.
Wow. All right, folks, we're almost there. So we are getting. Let me pause that, make sure it's not. Okay. So this is telling a nice little history lesson here. So that first one, we had the 13 Russians meddling. Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, Congress had a right to know the full story. Grassley is pressing his request for a new DOJ. Flynn pleaded guilty. And special counsel Robert Mueller's probe, making false statements, but he really didn't. Then Comey kind of backs up on Trump and what he meant by loyalty. Talking about, is he going to be fair? The 302. So in that letter, Grassley requested the FBI's so-called 302 documents memorializing their interview with Flynn and other supporting documents, including the agent's notes. He also asked for transcribed interview with the FBI special agent who interviewed Flynn with fellow agent Peter Strzok, and whose anti-Trump text message later led to his dismissal from the Russian probe. So in that letter, Grassley requested the FBI's so-called 302. How did I end up way back there? Right here, 302. Sorry, thought you guys were over here with me. So 302 texts. The 302s, the text, the tarmac. So that was just from today, earlier, 1443 in the series. All right, so that article. All right, so DOJ refusing to give Grassley access to agent who interviewed Flynn. We watched that video. Like I said, we've kind of gone through. We're on this next one we watched. Grassley pushes DOJ for answers on Flynn interview. Grassley requested the FBI so-called 302. 302 document, okay? And then we had the last video we just watched there. All right. Here's the last one here, folks. Trying to get this to play here. Trying to get this to play. Give me a minute here.
In this letter to the
We've been telling you about Mueller's indictments, the 13 Russians charged for meddling in our election with no sign of any Trump collusion.
This as a new judge in the case against Michael Flynn ordered on Friday Mueller to surrender any evidence that could exonerate him. And Judge Napolitano says that may be no coincidence. He joins us right now. Why would the judge do that?
You know, I've never heard of this. So Mike Flynn pleads guilty to lying to the FBI in December. The judge before whom he pleads guilty takes himself off the case. Why? Because that judge is also on the FISA court, and he may very well have authorized the wiretap that failed Mike Flynn when he was talking to then.
All right, we had some technical difficulties.
We've been telling you about Mueller's indictments, the 13 Russians charged.
In this letter to the Deputy Attorney General, the Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee sets a deadline for tomorrow to receive records about that alleged FBI confidential human source that was used in the early stages of the Russia investigation. These records were requested in April and now the subject of a congressional subpoena. The Nunes letter to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein said the records should be available to all members and staffers on the House Intelligence Committee and not limited to the congressional leadership known as the Gang of Eight. The letter reads in part, quote, "Your continued refusal to permit members of Congress and designated staff to review the requested documents is obstruction of a lawful congressional investigation. Any response falling short of this request will be considered an effort to conceal material information from Congress, a dangerous precedent that threatens the core of our democracy." At his weekly news conference last week, the House Speaker said the onus when it comes to these records is on the Justice Department.
So it is our job to conduct oversight. And so that is why you've seen frustration. Frustration by me, frustration by Chairman Nunes, frustration by a lot of our members that the foot dragging by the Department of Justice should not be tolerated.
This morning, a senior Justice Department official said the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and the nation's intelligence chief, the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, look forward to briefing congressional leadership scheduled for this Thursday, which is 2 days after the congressional deadline.
All right. All right, there you have it, folks. Let me close that down. Close that down. So the plan is unfolding massively worldwide, folks. The people that have set up deals with those foreign governments working in the best interest of themselves. It's all coming to a front. We're seeing it here. We're seeing it all really, really unravel. So start the clock, they said. This Thursday, it's going to be a major, major release of, hopefully, we're going to see heavily redactions, things removed, blacked out. We get it, but there's only so much they can argue to hide for so long. All right, let's get back here to these Q posts. All right. So that last one I read, we got into the article there. Take that same one. This statement should ring alarms. Hint, those responsible for spying, Five Eye, are present. Panic. He reposted it right here. This came at 14:19 to 19 p.m. This is 14:58 in the series. 1,458 Q posts to date from the beginning of the storm. Here we are, nearing the final push. All right, the final battle. The Punisher That's it, folks. The Punisher. Save that. Saved. All right. All right, I'm having issues. I got dead headphones, so I need to charge batteries. No big deal. I could actually still hear. Interesting. It's great to see everything unfold. Great to be able to show you guys or myself videos that are maybe a little couple months past, but there's smart people that that have saw things, people that got a little bit more intel. This administration's doing things by the books. They're doing things. It's not a bunch of leaks that they're allowing to happen to help them spin things and using controlled leaks like they have in the past. The media has been getting less and less leaks. They're only getting leaks from bad actors and leaks in the way that might not even be true. A lot of bad leakers are giving bad leaks, bad intel. So, and a lot of the media has relied on that for a long, long time. So we're seeing a change in that, and we're going to start seeing a lot of things come to the forefront and truth get laid out in front of us. So, all right, I'm nearing the 36-minute mark. I'm going to go ahead and cut it close here, cut it down. We'll be back. Please, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, maybe ring the bell. That way you get all the updates. Share it amongst your social media platforms and to all of your friends. Other than that, leave a comment, maybe thumbs up. We love the comments. Drop us an email. Check the description box. We'll leave the links to the articles and the qpub.com down in there as well. All right, I'm Mike. This is a Patriot Hour. God bless, Godspeed, and have a great evening. And we'll be back here, not too late, maybe later whenever there's more updates, or I got more to break down. So regardless, I'll probably do one later on this evening here. So we look forward to seeing you back here then.